This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, internet world. West Alabama, how are you doing today? It is a Monday on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. Hope you guys are having a great day. You're watching on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. You're listening to us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or on Amazon. This is the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, a proud part of the Bama Central Broadcasting Network, along with our friends Blue Collar Unplugged with Blake Byler, Matthew Gibson, and the Crimson Chaos president, Jacob Pickle. You can tune into them as well on all the other platforms I just laid out. We're going to have, hopefully, a fun Monday, hopefully a good Monday for you guys today. You can jump into the show at Joe Gaither 6 on all your social media machines if you want to leave a comment, a question, a query, or complaint right there on the show at Joe Gaither 6, especially on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. But it's the same social media handle for any of the social medias that you like to use. We're going to have a fun Monday. First, I want to get an apology out of the way. I did not do a show on Friday. I was a bit overwhelmed with all the football content that came into our lap. We had Alabama basketball at noon on Friday with Coach Nate Oates previewing the Arkansas game, and then we rolled into Alabama's offensive coaches. You had Robert Gillespie, Chris Kapilovich, and we had Nick Sheridan and Jamarcus Shepard all up there on our YouTube page right now at Bama Central. You can subscribe to that YouTube page. It's where all of these shows are posted. If you miss any of our shows or you want to check out any of the interviews that we always do, it's at Bama Central on the YouTube channel. You can see all four of those coaches. You can see Tyler Booker, Justice Haynes, Jam Miller. You can see a little bit of Kendrick Law and a lot of quarterback Jalen Milroe. So we had a lot of fun on Friday hanging out with a lot of those football players and coaches, getting to know the offense a little bit. And so I was overwhelmed with content, and I didn't put out a show on Friday. I really apologize. I meant to put out a show late Friday night, early Saturday, and then I meant to do a show after the game on Saturday just to get one out of the way. But I guess I wasn't there. My brain wasn't there. So here we go. We're going to recap Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and really get you moving into NFL direction because there's a lot of NFL news. We'll do that for the end. But for the beginning, let's talk Alabama basketball as the Crimson Tide defeats the Arkansas Razorbacks 92-88 in overtime. Oh, my gosh. What was your heart doing during that game? Oh my gosh, what in the world is this team doing? Falling behind again, turning the basketball over, finding themselves in a 15-point hole, a 15-point deficit. Isn't that the largest lead for Arkansas? Yeah, it was at 15 points. Arkansas was up 36-21 in the first half. And you thought, what in the world is this team doing? Sleepwalking into the SEC tournament. Ended up with 8 turnovers in the first half, only 3 in the second half. The Crimson Tide battled in the second half and ultimately fought their way back. And goodness gracious, Latrell Wrightsell, welcome back to the lineup. 39 of the 45 minutes played. He had 20 points, 4 of 8 from beyond the arc, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, only the 1 turnover. Latrell Wrightsell is the secret sauce to this team, and I think that everybody has recognized that to this point. Now that we've been here, now that we've spent 2 weeks without him, you go 2 weeks without Latrell Wrightsell, and Alabama loses 3 out of 5 games to kind of close the regular season. And Coach Nate Oates steps up to the podium and says, "Oh, we would have won a league championship if we'd have had Latrell Wrightsell." And so I ask you, do you agree with Nate Oates? If you had Latrell Wrightsell, do you beat Kentucky on the road? I'm going to say no, because Kentucky really, really played well. You might have cut down on your turnovers, and that might have given you a chance to win the game. You played pretty atrocious defense up in Lexington, and they shot the lights out. They shot they shot your eyeballs out, Alabama, and put up 117 or so. I don't know. I think it would have been a closer game. I'm not sure that Alabama would have won up there in Lexington, but right here in Tuscaloosa, game day in town, Alabama and Tennessee. Would Alabama have beaten Tennessee right here in Coleman Coliseum with Latrell Wrightsell? The game was close. It was a tight ball game. I'm going to say, I'll say yeah, because of the turnovers. Alabama turned the basketball over at too high a rate. And really, Alabama's guards Mark Sears and Aaron Estrada have looked tired through the last couple of weeks because of the load that they're carrying without Latrell Wrightsell. You bring him back on Saturday. Oh, you pull Rylan Griffin out of the lineup. So, no rest for the weary for you, Mark Sears and Aaron Estrada. But you get Wrightsell back, you've got the sharpshooter back, and you end up winning the ball game. I think that he shows you how important he is, and ideally you get Rylan Griffin back for this coming up Friday against probably the Florida Gators. You're gonna need him. We'll talk about the SEC tournament here in just a minute, but really resilient, gritty effort to close out the regular season for Alabama basketball, and then you needed it. You needed it because of everything that was going on around you. Now, you didn't get all the help that you needed. You really wanted to get that number 2 seed and avoid the Florida Gators in the Friday matchup, but you didn't, unfortunately, because Kentucky went on the road and beat Tennessee. Now, you can argue how much or how, you can argue how invested Tennessee was, but Dalton Knecht had his 40 points, so Tennessee wanted to win. It was a close game as well. I think Tennessee a little bit tired down the stretch, and once they had clinched the regular season, maybe didn't lay it all out on the line, but really Kentucky just showing you when Kentucky is max, when Kentucky is 100% Big Blue Nation, and when Reed Shepherd is going off, Antonio Reeves is going off, you've got, Onyensu is playing great defense. They're all over the place. I think when Kentucky is playing at 100% of their capacity, that they are the best team in this conference. They didn't win the league because they didn't play 100% of their capacity all season long, and they really played bad defense all season long. But when Kentucky decided to play some defense and really dig in on that side of the floor, watch out. I think that they are the most talented. They have the highest ceiling in this conference. Now, Tennessee, look, they're going to be in the conversation for the Final Four. Look, Alabama, you finished third in the league. And are you happy with that? Oh, if you asked us 3 weeks ago, you'd say no way because of where Alabama was in the conference standings. You're in first place, but you let it slip. But you take this step back, you look back. Oh my gosh, you do this. You take the view from 10,000 feet up. Alabama finishes 21-10 on the season. 13-5 in the SEC, and you think back to us in October where the media was picking Alabama to finish 5th in the conference, and Nate Oates was kind of poking a little fun at the media for that. Alabama finishes 3rd, not 5th, so better than expected. Let's have a little levity. I know the end of the year didn't exactly work out the way that Alabama fans would have wanted, and I sense and feel that disappointment as well, but from where you started, from what you were dealt, the hand that you were dealt in preseason to finish 13-5, to finish with a number 3 seed, you got the double bye. University of Alabama has never played on a Wednesday in the SEC tournament, but you got the double bye. You're playing Friday. I think, you got to be satisfied with where you are, especially considering the a couple layers of adversity through the season, with Rylan going out, with Latrell going out, now with Rylan going out. I think on the whole, you have to be pretty daggum happy. My biggest concern, my biggest complaint from, someone covering the team, someone watching the team, and, someone who has favorable feelings for the team, is that from January, like late January or so, it seemed like there wasn't any progression defensively. I mean, you got progression through the first part of the SEC play. I mean, you remember how much you held South Carolina, 14 minutes of play in the second half there in Coleman Coliseum without a made bucket. Like, there were spurts of defensive intensity and play, but they never saw it actually come together. And you saw it in the second half against Florida here at home against Coleman Coliseum, and you saw it some against the Arkansas game, but you never saw it string together. Alabama's biggest problem is on made buckets, they can't string together stops on the defensive end, and so you really wanted to see them take steps in that area, because the offense was the offense. The offense is, offense finished number 3 in KenPom. Is that what it finished in based on a little side, or did it finish number 1? Number 2. Alabama right now per KenPom has the number 2 offensive efficiency, right behind the Purdue Boilermakers, 126.1. So the offense is the offense. You flip to the defensive side, 102. Oh my gosh, 102 in defensive efficiency at 102.8 points per 100 possessions, and that's just not good enough to win at a high enough level. And you want to see more progression in that area because the offense was pretty much top five offense in the country right from the jump, from the beginning of the season. The defense, had some times in the 70s, had some times a little bit of time in the 60s, and then basically hung out the rest of the year from high 70s to 100, between 80 and 100. And so you never really saw that step forward Well, that was embarrassing. That was super embarrassing. Huh. But it looks like Comcast is working on the internet in the area, and that's why I had some trouble. But welcome back. I'm jumped back in. I don't know where we left off because, everything went kaput. So we're back to Alabama and Arkansas. Let's just start right back there. Latrell Wrightsell being the X factor. 20 points. He hit the clutch shot to take you back in overtime. He doesn't turn the basketball over. If you would have had him, would have won the SEC? I think that Nate Oates has a pretty daggum good argument. Aaron Estrada in the ballgame, I think, really struggled. Aaron had 10 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds, and 2 steals. But Aaron Estrada, I think, has really showed signs of the fatigue that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. He had 5 of the team's 11 turnovers in the ballgame. And just as a little bit too careless with the basketball, or he has been a little too careless with the basketball over the last couple of weeks. So you want to see Aaron Estrada get some rest this week. You want to see the whole team get some rest this week because you want to have Rylan Griffin in action and in place for the SEC tournament. Look, in the game on Saturday, Alabama held Arkansas to 1.07 points per game. And that's been kind of about what Alabama has been doing in some of its wins, 1.1, 1.05, 1.2, somewhere in that range. Now, Nate Oates has talked in the past that his goal for his team, if we're just top 70 in defense, if we can hold teams to between 0.6 and 0.7, we'll be championship level. That's championship level defense, and that will propel us with the strong offense. Now, Alabama's goal, you're not going to get to 0.7. You're not going to get 0.6 this year. This defense, on-ball defending has been an issue. You've seen that in the post. The strength in the post has been an issue. You've seen that as well. So you're just not going to get down to 0.6, 0.7. But what you can do, reset your goal. Make your goal right at 1 point per possession. Take the teams to challenge them and say, can you go do 0.99 points per possession for the SEC tournament? Can you make that your goal? Because if you hold these other teams to 0.99 points per possession, your offense will be good enough and is good enough to win pretty much that game every time. So you don't have to take that many more steps forward from an Alabama basketball perspective to be in that championship contention. And so that's what's been so frustrating. You go back and you take that big 30,000 feet up view and you think, wow, Nate Oates, what a great coaching job you've done. And how amazing has it been to rebuild this roster and rebuild this assistant coaching staff and get them contending. You're playing nose to nose with a lot of the top 5 teams in the country. You haven't beaten them really, but you played nose to nose. You finished 3rd in the SEC. That's a sign of really the strength of the program. When you were picked to finish 5th, you had all the turmoil and you finished better than expected. Yeah. You do have the disappointment of losing the SEC regular season title in the last couple of weeks when you were in the driver's seat. But take the context, take the circumstance of Latrell Wrightsell's injury, and then you just add that into what this team already struggles with, physicality, foul trouble, rotation issues, and turning the basketball over offensively. It just complicated things down the stretch, and we'll see. We'll see if they can really put together a strong SEC tournament run. Now, like we were saying, I don't know where we were cut off. I'm sorry about that. But Alabama does have a really, really hard draw. Alabama's got a hard draw in the SEC tournament. You're playing on that Friday night slate, so you're sitting around all day long. You're going to watch on Friday. You watch the winner of Mississippi State and LSU play, and I got Mississippi State. So you're going to watch Mississippi State and Tennessee on that Friday. Tennessee, I think, is going to win that game pretty easily. You're going to watch South Carolina, probably. South Carolina taking on Auburn, because I think Vanderbilt's going to beat Arkansas and end up taking on South Carolina on that Thursday day. So Alabama's going to get up there probably Thursday, watching these games, getting rested, getting settled in the hotel. You'll watch South Carolina and Auburn, and then I think you'll be watching Texas A&M and Kentucky, the game before you. I think Texas A&M beats Ole Miss, and then you'll be squared away against Florida. Tough matchup. You didn't have Latrell in the first matchup, and it went to overtime. It came down to the wire here in Tuscaloosa. Yeah, it was an overtime game, I believe, right here in Tuscaloosa, and you won, thankfully. Then you went down to Gainesville without Latrell, and you got punked. You turned the basketball over a bunch of times. You let Florida get out into transition, and you got punked. And that became an issue, an overwhelming issue, a theme, a thematic issue with this team all year long on the road, turning the basketball over, letting teams get easy buckets, and combine that with average shooting, and you're going to put yourself in a big old hole, and you lost to Florida. So that Friday game is going to be very interesting and a lot of fun. I do have Alabama winning that game just on my SEC tournament bracket that I filled out that you can find on my Twitter machine at Joe Gaither 6. You can fill out your own. Please let me know your picks. That'd be a lot of fun. Then I have the semifinals. Tennessee beats Mississippi State. I think South Carolina, after they beat Vanderbilt, I think they're going to beat Auburn. We've seen Bruce Pearl come up short numerous times. We've seen Bruce Pearl have poor tournament showings numerous times. And I think the South Carolina team is very, very hungry. I think the South Carolina team, their best quality is their competitiveness. And I think that the South Carolina team is going to come out and really give Auburn a game up there in Bridgestone Arena. And I think they're going to win. I've got South Carolina going to my semifinals on Saturday. I got Kentucky beating the brakes off of Texas A&M. And then I have Alabama winning a close game, a hard game with Florida. That's going to be a huge challenge. Then you've got the next semifinal Saturday is going to be a lot of fun. Tennessee, I've got Tennessee and South Carolina in that semifinal at noon Central Time. I got Tennessee winning that game. I just think that they are a better basketball team than South Carolina. Obviously, that they split through the season. I think Tennessee is going to want to prove that they're a better team and get that 2-1 advantage over South Carolina and advance to Championship Sunday. Now, look, after that game, it's going to be Alabama and Kentucky. And you all know what happens in Nashville. What does it become? The Big Blue Invitational is what a lot of them say. It's probably going to be very, very blue in Bridgestone Arena. Get up there if you can. Saturday, probably 3 o'clock or so, roughly 2:30, 3 o'clock. So get up there if you can. Alabama's going to need to play probably its best game to beat Kentucky. You're going to have to not turn the basketball over offensively. You cannot because look, the Kentucky offense, when you may have missed it or it might have cut out during that time, but I think when Kentucky is playing at 100% of what Kentucky can be, I think they're the best basketball team in this conference. I do, because their offense is when it's humming at 100%, it's as good as Alabama's, if not better. They've got great shot makers. They've got good decision makers. I think that it's as good as Alabama's, if not better. Now their defense is pretty bad, just like Alabama's. Whereas Kentucky in defense, Kentucky, the 6th best offensive efficiency and the 93rd best defensive efficiency. That sounds a whole lot like Alabama's numbers that are 2nd and 102nd. Pretty similar teams. I think that Kentucky game is going to be a real challenge there. If you don't turn the basketball over, if you can force them into tougher shots, and really maybe you got to win the rebounding battle. Honestly, you have to win the rebounding battle. Hopefully you can get Onyenso into foul trouble so that affects Kentucky's defense. In my bracket, I picked Kentucky to win. I do. I mean, would I love to see Alabama win, and so I can hang around till Sunday? Absolutely, and cover that championship game 100%. But I think Kentucky's going to beat Alabama on that Saturday day, and to set up a round 3 of Tennessee and Kentucky Sunday, championship Sunday at noon, and that'll be the rubber match for that rivalry. Tennessee winning in Rupp Arena and Kentucky winning this past Saturday over there in what is their arena? Goodness gracious. Thompson Boling Arena in Tennessee. Both teams winning on the other's home floor. I think Kentucky wins. I think Kentucky is just playing as hot as they can be, as hot as they have been. They've been building a lot of momentum. And I got Kentucky winning the SEC tournament. That's kind of the way I see that playing out. Now, would I love to be wrong and see Alabama beat Kentucky on that Saturday? Absolutely. But the Crimson Tide's pretty much going to have to focus on the Friday matchup first. Florida is not going to be easy. Maybe you get an upset. Highly, highly unlikely that you get an upset for Georgia or Missouri upsetting Florida. I would say highly unlikely that taking place. It's going to be a tough road. Now, let's think about this from a flip side. Would it be better? Now, this is a hard angle to take. Would it be better for Alabama to just lose that Friday night and go out? Just go out, come back home on Saturday, and you have selection Sunday, and you're thinking, oh, no, Joe, no, of course you don't want to. You want to go win a game. Absolutely you do. You do. But think about it. Would it be a better thing for this basketball team to lose to a Florida, Missouri, or Georgia, whoever the case may be, on that Friday, and then come home Saturday, and you get that whole week's rest until you're playing on the Thursday or Friday first round in the NCAA tournament? Now, we've talked about this team looking tired. We've talked about Ryland, the importance of Ryland getting back into the fold. Hopefully you'll have him back for the SEC tournament. And Latrell looks like he's close to 100%. He looked pretty daggum good on Saturday, playing 39 minutes. Now he looks like he's back into the fold, but more rest the better. Aaron Estrada, I do think that he looks tired. I think that a lot of the turnovers that he has that he has forced, or that have gone on his record, have been a symptom, or have been basically a product of being tired, not being as crisp, not being as 100%. And Mark Sears the same way. Now, Mark has been a tank. Mark is a tank, and he had 22 points on Saturday again for Alabama, 3 of 7 from beyond the arc, six assists, no turnovers for Mark. Now, he's a tank. I do think that it could serve him a little better to get some rest. I think the whole team needs some rest. So you get the 6 days, the 5 days in between the Arkansas game and the Friday game in that first round. Would you be better served playing the one game, losing, and taking 4 or 5 days rest between that first round? You're going to be a 4 seed? You're probably going to be traveling to Washington or Brooklyn. You're probably going to be traveling somewhere, not Memphis and not Charlotte, the way we wanted to. Unfortunately so. You're going to be taking a long flight somewhere. It's going to be a hard weekend. It's much more prestigious to advance further in the NCAA tournament. Would you sacrifice a strong SEC tournament showing if it meant that Alabama was 100% health, 100% rest going into the NCAA tournament? It's a hard question for me. It's a hard question to decide because, look, the selfish side of me, you don't want to let any game go. You don't want to let any opportunity to prove yourself go. You go out to Florida, you go out that first day game to Florida, and thus you lose the season series. You lose the season series, and you're on that 4 line. Do you fall to the 5 line? How important is the SEC tournament for seeding in the NCAA tournament? Some people argue that it doesn't matter at all. A lot of these seedings basically are locked into place before conference tournament starts, and I think there's some merit to that. But if you have a bad showing, if you have just go out there and let's say you lose by 20 again to Florida, not good. Does that doubt tend to creep in? You don't want your last performance to be a bad performance going into the NCAA tournament. I think that there is merit to suggest, the rest is valuable, but I think this Alabama team, it would be better for them to play at a game at 100%, to play a game at, hey, this is what this is what average defense looks like through a 40-minute game. This is what a team looks like that doesn't turn the basketball over 10 times in a game, that doesn't, that's not having some of its main components foul out throughout the rest and get into foul trouble. I mean, Grant, goodness gracious, Grant, you just got to stay out of foul trouble, my man. You got to be on the court to help Alabama. And I know you're not really a 5-man. You're getting asked to be playing out of position because you don't really have a formidable 5-man. But you just got to play without fouling. So I think I'd rather see Alabama basketball, find its peak or find its ascension, start ascending in this SEC tournament rather than go out. I mean, the rest would be valuable. But at this point, I think that I'm much more concerned about kind of the quality of play. Yeah, the offense is going to be there. The shots are going to fall. You're going to get up, 75, 80 shots. You're going to get a bunch of shots up. You're going to shoot probably 40, 45% in the NCAA tournament. Do you have the defensive intensity to get the key stops, to not turn the basket, be intentional with the basketball and not turn it over? It's going to be really interesting to see that this coming up week in the SEC tournament, as it's basically one and done. Everything becomes one and done from here on out. You've got 2 lives left. You got the 1 life left in the SEC tournament, and you've got 1 more life left in the NCAA tournament. You lose it, you're gone, and the season's over. And we'll see what happens with that. Now, let's move into just real quickly senior day. Alabama honored what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They honored 6 seniors, including Max Stradowski. So Max goes first, the walk-on. Everybody cheers him, and you're gonna send Max Stradowski on into the great real world. But what about the other 5 scholarship players? Aaron Estrada is out of eligibility. Graduated. Oh, we thank you for your service. Great job here. Let's see how far we can go together for this last couple of weeks. But he cannot come back. Aaron Estrada cannot continue playing college basketball. The rest of the other 4, Grant Nelson, Mark Sears, Nick Pringle, Latrell Wrightsell, all seemingly have an extra year of eligibility, another year of eligibility that I cannot keep track of. I honestly thought that this year was the final year of COVID eligibility for some of these guys, for some of these for some of the extra years. But I guess that, I trust the people that keep track of this. I trust the people that tell me that Grant Nelson and Mark Sears and Nick Pringle and Latrell Wrightsell have another year of eligibility. And so that's with those circumstances being laid out, let's talk about who might come back and who might be departing. I think the Mark Sears, obviously that's the big name. Mark Sears, I think, returns to the team because you talk about, Mark Sears projecting to the NBA. He's probably not going to be a first or second round pick. He's probably a camp invite, a G League type player, very similar to where Jaden Shackelford kind of landed with the Oklahoma City Thunder, or kind of like Keon Ellis landed with the Sacramento Kings. I think he's kind of on that fringe. Do you go into the NBA G League and play in that fringe, play in the basically minor leagues, play with the J.D. Davisons and where he's playing with the Celtics? Or do you say, you know what? I'm going to come back to Alabama where I'm hero worshipped. I'll take my, whatever the case may be, NIL deal. I don't even want to throw out a number because I don't have a good ballpark for what it might be, but he's going to get a fine NIL deal, I'm sure. I'll take my NIL deal and I'll play one more year with the Crimson Tide and basically be hero worshipped and try to make another big run. And look, you go Mark Sears 3 years in a row of being in this backcourt, you become one of the premier players in the Nate Oates era. People think about Herb Jones. People think about Brandon Miller, basically from his 1 year. You think about JQ, Javon Quinterly. Like, there are some players that are now synonymous with the Nate Oates era. And Mark Sears, you come on back, man. You lead it to another top 3, top 5 finish in the SEC. Look, next year's team looks like it's loaded. You lead the team to another top 3, top 5 finish in the SEC. Maybe you hang a banner in Coleman Coliseum for a tournament title, SEC tournament title. Sweet 16, Elite 8, who knows? I think Mark Sears is going to come back to this team. Now, as far as the rest, I think Grant Nelson's a 50-50 guy. I think Grant Nelson has had a very difficult year this year, being played out of position in a large way. Now, I don't think he's going to be played at the 5 really in the NBA if he gets there. Is he an NBA player? I think there's still some doubts, but I think there's still still a quality argument that he is an NBA player. He's one of Alabama's he is Alabama's most intriguing, interesting prospect because of his length and his athleticism. He's just, goodness gracious, Grant, we got to get some more sand in your pants. We got to get some more muscle, some more weight. But if you're playing the 4 in the future if Aiden Sherrill comes and plays the 5, repositions you back out to the 4, I don't know. Maybe Grant Nelson comes back for another year and showcases his skills as a 4-man. And gets in the weight room. I think that could benefit him. I think Grant Nelson is a 50-50 guy, whether he stays or whether he goes. Now, Nick Pringle, unfortunately, I think Nick Pringle is going to be seeking greener pastures, seeking other opportunities if he wants to continue playing college basketball. I think Nick Pringle has been a severely underrated member of this basketball team, and really you need his skill sets. You need his toughness. If you don't have it, granted, we've complained about his foul trouble all year long, but if you don't have his toughness and really his ability inside, you're even worse off on the defensive end. So I appreciate what Nick Pringle has done for this team, but you do have to have a little bit of turnover to bring these 3 incoming players in for the new class. I think Nick Pringle is going to be one of those guys that goes and leaves elsewhere. Now, Latrell Wrightsell's another 50-50 guy, but I think Latrell comes back to Alabama because Latrell has shown you how, he's an amazing shooter. He just went 100% from the free throw line. You go out and shoot 27 free throws, whether you're the best shooter in your high school class or what. You're the best shooter in your church rec league. You're not making 27 free throws in a row throughout the course of a season. He went undeterred from the free throw line. I would love to have Latrell Wrightsell back because I think that he is really, we addressed it earlier. I think he's the secret. So he gives you toughness on ball defending that you need. Ryland gives you that, but past Ryland, who do you have else that you can say, hey, go guard somebody? I think Latrell's that second guy that you send out there to shut somebody down or to stay glued to someone. And then you trust Latrell with the basketball. All these turnover issues that you've had, I think I'd love to see Latrell get a little more run and protect the basketball a little bit further. So, look, I think that Estrada, unfortunately, out of eligibility. Nick Pringle, I think he's going to be gone. Mark Sears, I think he's coming back. Grant Nelson is a 50-50 guy. I think Latrell Wrightsell is going to be coming back as well. So you got a great, you're looking at, barring changes in the transfer portal, you're looking at having a really, really good team for this Alabama basketball team with Aiden Sherrill, with Darian Reed, and Nas Cunningham, I think is the third member of the 2024 class. Ooh, top 10 class coming back into Alabama. So I remind you, while the disappointment I think is okay to feel, oh, you had the championship won, you had the league title won, and you let it slip. But you need to also, in one hand, hold the disappointment, but in the other hand, hold the appreciation for, wow, look how far you've come. Look, you're about to go into Selection Sunday without a worry in the world, without a stress. Look, I watched some of the small conference tournaments this past weekend. Didn't even care that Indiana State lost its conference championship game and, might be bubble bursted for somebody else. Alabama firmly in. Thank you so much, NATO, for getting you there. Now, the All-SEC team was released today by the conference office, and Mark Sears was the only honoree. First team All-SEC for Mark Sears, obvious selection. You had Dalton Knecht win SEC Player of the Year, obvious choice. You had Lamont Parrish win Coach of the Year at South Carolina, obvious choice. I don't really have any issue with anybody. Look, I think you have arguments for Estrada. I think you probably have arguments for Grant Nelson, but there just wasn't enough consistency for those players compared to the rest of the league. Look, you had Reed Shepard win Freshman of the Year. You had Rob Dillingham win Sixth Man of the Year, and Zakai Ziegler winning Defensive Player of the Year. You look at the all-defensive team. I almost made this joke on Twitter, but you had Janai Broome, Cameron Matthews of Mississippi State, Jonas Adu of Tennessee, Zakai Ziegler of Tennessee, and Anderson Garcia of Texas A&M all make first-team all-defense. And I was like, oh, where's the Alabama guy? I mean, Ryland's a good defender. He is. But when your defense is 102nd in the nation in defensive efficiency, you ain't going to get anybody honored on the SEC all-defensive team. So that's kind of the basketball look of the last couple of days. You've got the win over Arkansas. You finished third, and yes, you're happy. Goodness gracious. Alabama put you through the ringer on Saturday with the win, going down 15 and digging their way back into the game against a team that you should have. You were a 16.5-point favorite. And I foolishly let a friend of mine talk me into taking my public stance on the Alabama and 16.5. Look, I knew it. I knew it was a trap. I knew 16.5. Arkansas plus 16.5 was the bet, but I let somebody talk me into Alabama minus the 16.5. And while it didn't hurt me too bad, I am mad at myself that I didn't stick with my gut. I thought that game was going to be close for no stupid reason, and it was because Musselman, they wanted to bring it against Alabama. Always love beating Eric Musselman. All right, let's get moving here. Let's keep it moving here. We got two more real topics to discuss. I want to talk recruiting, Alabama football recruiting, because they got two big wins over the weekend, and I want to talk NFL news because today started NFL free agency, and we're only going to talk NFL news through the eyes of Alabama football. We're going to talk about it as it pertains to some of our Alabama guys in the NFL. Let's go ahead and talk about that first. Let's talk about the NFL guys. Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney are now dead to me. Both guys. Just kidding. We appreciate them. Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney both signing contracts with the Green Bay Packers. Look, the Green Bay Packers, the Alabama to Green Bay Packers real pipeline or connection has been strong throughout the years. Bart Starr, Clinton Dix, Eddie Lacy of late. You've seen a lot lot of Alabama players go up there. And Josh Jacobs, he goes to Green Bay. I love Matt LaFleur's offense, even though I hate Green Bay. His offense is art and in motion. The way he calls offense, the way he gets under center, they do zone stretch, they play action pass, they do a lot of screens, they do a lot of eye candy, a lot of motions, and really keep the defense's eyes in different places. And so I think that Josh Jacobs is going to be a great fit. The Packers are letting Aaron Jones go. They couldn't agree to a contract extension. So Josh Jacobs is going to be the dude in Green Bay. It's going to be Josh Jacobs, and it's going to be what? Who's the kid? A.J. Dillon, the backup for Green Bay. And he's going to be a good little backup, giving you a hammer. But Josh Jacobs is a 3-down back. And so it's going to be, I think that his fit in Green Bay is really, really good. I might hate it from a personal standpoint because it's going to mean that Green Bay is going to be very good offensively again. But I think his fit in Green Bay with that, look, you got Jordan Love, who is, let's be honest, an ascending quarterback. He is. He's not a great quarterback, but he's not bad. He showed signs of ascension last year, and I think he'll continue to do that under the Matt LaFleur system. But what do you need? What do you give a young quarterback who's gaining experience, who needs a little bit of a security blanket? A great running back, and Josh Jacobs is that. He's been to the Pro Bowl, he's been an All-Pro player. I think the Raiders are, Raidering out, letting him go, letting him leave, and it stinks from my perspective as a Bears fan watching it happen because I'll have to cheer against Josh Jacobs from a personal level. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, the Packers got better again with Xavier McKinney. They signed Xavier McKinney. The New York Giants allowed Xavier McKinney to kind of test the free agent market, and it sounded like Xavier McKinney might have been flirting with the Philadelphia Eagles a little bit, but ultimately lands in Green Bay. So from my standpoint, boo-hoo-hoo. The Green Bay Packers get a lot better, adding 2 Alabama players, both one on offense, one on defense, and I think both guys are impactful players. I think that Xavier McKinney might have gotten a little lost in the wash in New York because of maybe the success or lack thereof that they have had over the last couple of years. But the New York Giants defense has been good. And Xavier McKinney is a good player. He's going to be very helpful. I'm not as confident in his fit defensively for Green Bay because I'm pretty sure that they're changing defensive coordinators. But I am very, very confident in the Josh Jacobs fit in Green Bay. Now let's talk Philadelphia Eagles real quick. They re-signed Landon Dickerson, your favorite Alabama transfer. Yeah, Florida State transferee coming to Alabama and just fell in love with Alabama, embraced by the family, and went to the NFL draft, drafted by the Eagles off what? Torn ACL? You all remember that? You can all picture and close your eyes and picture Landon Dickerson carrying Nick Saban off the field with his torn ACL. But Landon Dickerson makes a lot of money today, 4 years, $84 million. The highest paid interior offensive lineman in the NFL is your own Landon Dickerson, former Alabama Crimson Tide player. So congratulations to Landon. We'll see how the rest of the NFL free agents go. You're looking to see a landing spot for Derrick Henry. I kind of wanted Derrick Henry in Chicago, but Chicago signed DeAndre Swift, and that's a-okay, and that doesn't matter to you guys at all. We'll see where Derrick Henry lands and how that plays out. Calvin Ridley is on the free agent block. Obviously, he was kind of in play there to return to Jacksonville, but Jacksonville has signed Gabe Davis. So Calvin Ridley kind of in that free agent zone. Where is he going to end up landing? He's probably going to make a lot of money as well. I know he missed out on a year's worth of money, but I think he's going to recoup it right here. Calvin Ridley still on the block, and we'll cover all your NFL free agent news on BamaCentral.com. You can keep up with really Alabama everywhere at BamaCentral.com. If you're looking for us on social media, we're at BamaCentral on X, we're at Alabama Crimson Tide on Sports Illustrated on Facebook, and we're at Bama Central SI on Instagram. So those 3 spots, you can find Bama Central and all our articles. And then if you're just looking on your web browser, BamaCentral.com, you can keep up with all the NFL news as it pertains to the Alabama players at that next level. Lastly, let's get out of here with recruiting. Huge weekend for Alabama. You had, 60, 70, you had over 70 recruits, according to Courtney Morgan, the new general manager for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and I'm loving that role. I think that it's great to have one person, one voice kind of saying this is what's going on with roster management, and it takes it look, Kalen DeBoer is probably heavily involved. Let's not be naive. It takes some of the responsibility away from head coach Kalen DeBoer as far as roster management, who stays, who goes, who Alabama's adding, who Alabama's targeting. You give that responsibility to a Courtney Morgan, and you allow Kalen DeBoer to really be all in coaching. I think that's a welcome change here at the capstone. So what happened? You had Juju Lewis, a 5-star quarterback from Carrollton, coming over. He's committed to Southern California. He was on a visit. You had a lot of players on a visit, but two guys committed to join the Alabama 2025 class. And let's talk about it. Zamir Smith on Saturday in the middle of the basketball game. Come on, Zamir. What are we doing? What are we doing here, buddy? You got to wait till the basketball game is over so you have your own shine here, man. Come on. Let's get in there. You can go ahead and decommit and recommit on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. when nothing's happening. You'll get your own shine. I'm just teasing there. But Zamir Smith is a 4-star athlete out of Maryland. He might be a running back. He might be a cornerback. He might be a safety. I think he's probably a safety. But he plays both sides of the ball in Maryland, and I think he's going to end up being Coach Kalen DeBoer's real second defensive prospect after Antonio Coleman flipped back from Auburn. Look, since Kalen DeBoer's come, you've recommitted to Ryan Williams, you flipped Antonio Coleman, you added Zamir Smith, and on Monday, just a couple hours ago, you added Derek Smith as well. You talk about Derek Smith, 4-star wide receiver out of Southside Selma. And look, when this popped up on my social media today, I said, I know that kid. I know that guy. Where do I know that guy? And I thought, Southside Selma. Oh, I've seen Southside Selma play 2 years ago. I went down to Greensboro to watch Southside Selma versus Greensboro. And Derek Smith and his twin brother, Eric Smith, yes, Derek and Eric, both basically dominated the entire game for Southside Selma. I went through my film clips. I got a touchdown clip of Derek Smith. You can find it on my Twitter if you want to see just one little snippet of Derek Smith. But this dude is a baller. He was just a sophomore. Both guys were just a sophomore. You got the higher-rated recruit. Both guys pretty nice little basketball players as well. Southside Selma is what, 2A? 2A, so really you get one or two good athletes on a 2A basketball team. You can go very, very far in the state. Look, he is very long and athletic. He's going to be a wide receiver. Let's see what 24/7 lists him at. 24/7 4-star wide receiver lists him as the 69th. Nice. Best recruit in the class. Number 7 best recruit in the state of Alabama, and the number 8 overall wide receiver in the class. Now, I don't think this part is right. They have him listed as 6'1", 185. Now, it was 2 years ago, but I remember him being taller than 6'1". I remember him being just really long, and I've just been long arms, but I thought he was closer to 6'3", maybe 6'4". Let's see, last year's stats for Southside Selma: 46 receptions, 1,400 yards, and 14 touchdowns. 65 carries for another 1,000 yards and another 9 touchdowns. He also had 74 tackles on defense and 11 sacks on as well. So he's playing edge rusher / safety on defense. This kid is a hell of an athlete. Now, very, very, very raw. You're going to see him need to develop further just the technical skills to play wide receiver at the next level, at the college level. But as far as a 2A high school athlete, oh, man, he's a difference maker. And so I was very privileged to see him 2 years ago down at Greensboro, and hopefully we'll be privileged enough to see him again this coming season, his senior year at Southside Selma. Alabama now with 5 total commits in the class, and great for them. Great. You're moving. You're starting to move. You had what, 6? You had 6 commits, and you got 4 guys decommitted, and you were down to just 2. You were down to Anthony Rogers and just Miles Johnson, and those 2 guys are still in the class. They're kind of your bedrocks in the class right now. Head coach Kalen DeBoer has added Derek Smith, Antonio Coleman, and Zamir Smith all in the last, week and change. And so you're starting to rebuild the recruiting class. If you look at 24/7's rankings, Alabama is ranked now at 13. And look, everybody who wants to call Kalen DeBoer Husky Harsin, comparing him to Brian Harsin, the former coach at Auburn who could not recruit to save his life, I think that you might want to watch out on that. I think you might want to slow down on that because of, even though Alabama only got 2 commitments from the weekend, you look at the list, the amount of guys, the quality of the guys. I mean, granted, you got to take some recruiting rankings with a grain of salt. If not, they're not all locks if it's 5 stars, but it's a good starting place. You got a lot of 5 stars coming on campus. You've got a lot of guys interested in the new Alabama. I know Nick Saban, obviously the GOAT, and the quickest and most direct path to the NFL was through Tuscaloosa. And it really was. But I think that the new era of Alabama is really exciting. A lot of recruits on the recruiting trail. And I think that you are starting to see that 2025 class come together. It's going to be interesting to see through the next couple of weeks as it continues. Really, 8-8 going to be a huge day. And they go into full-on recruiting mode until summer gets going. We'll cover it all at BamaCentral.com. You've got Derek Smith's commitment. You've got Zamir Smith's commitment. You've got Antonio Coleman's flip, all written right there at BamaCentral.com. I've reached out to Derek Smith. Maybe we can get him on the show. I need to start getting some of these 2025 guys onto the show like we got the 2024 guys last season. I'd love to be able to bring that to you and let us start to get to know Derek Smith and the rest of these 2025 recruits. So that's going to do it for our show today. I appreciate everybody watching us today. You watched us on Twitter. You watched us on YouTube. You watched us on Facebook at Joe Gaither 6 is where you watched us. You can find me right there on any of the social media platforms you like, right there at Joe Gaither 6. You also are watching us at BamaCentral on the YouTube channel. Hopefully you subscribe to BamaCentral on YouTube. We just went over 4,000 subscribers, and so I really appreciate you doing that. I know that not all of it is because of my show. A lot of it is because of inside access to the Alabama athletics, but really you look on Saturday and you can see the senior day presentation that you didn't see on TV right there on our YouTube channel. You can see Rammer Jammer, Crimson Chaos's last Rammer Jammer of the season right there. You can look, really, all our practice videos are right there on YouTube as well. So a little bit's from my show. I appreciate you guys watching the show, but a lot of it is from the inside look at Alabama athletics right there at Bama Central on the YouTube channel. All the press conferences that we do, all the practice videos that we do. You can go back to last week. College Game Day was in town. You got all the behind the scenes looks at College Game Day that we did. Check out at Bama Central on the YouTube channel. That's going to do it for our show today. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll hopefully continue to talk about SEC tournament. I think I'm going to reach out to Mr. SEC tournament, Wimp Sanderson. We'll see if we can get Coach Sanderson onto the show for the first time. We love Coach Sanderson. We'll see if we can get his thoughts on the tournament up there in Nashville this week, right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.